Hey everyone, good morning and good evening. Okay, let's start with today's session and let's see what we have today. Let me quickly share my screen. Okay, so quick recap what we did yesterday. So we have created a YAML file. So let's go and see the repos. In this we had created multi-stage build and deployment. When I say multi-stage, we had a build stage. This is the display name, this is a stage, this is a build stage. Basically this stage is doing the build. The next stage is where we did the deployment. So we basically haven't done the deployment yet. This is just a ARM template web creation which was happening. Now today we'll take this further. There are two more tasks which needs to be added over here. The PowerShell task which will make sure that your pipeline is holding for 1 second before it moves on to the next task. And we have a deployment, a web app task. That is something we need to go and add it over here. Okay. Now, if you guys remember, we have added an environment dev. Now, what exactly this environment is all about? Okay. Now, so basically in a layman term, if you want to explain environment, so environment is nothing but it's a collection of resources that can be targeted by deployment, okay, from a pipeline. Now this environment is nothing right now, guys, because we are creating our own environment right now using ARM template. Just imagine if there is a predefined environment. You have collection of environments such as you have Kubernetes clusters, you have Azure web apps, virtual machine, databases. So you can tag them as dev environment, test environment, QA environment, and all this you can do it. All this environment which you see. So as of now I have not created any environment. This dev environment, because we ran this pipeline already, this dev environment might have been created already. Okay. Now where do you see this? If you go to pipeline, there's an option of environments. Now do you see there's a dev environment got created yesterday, and there's one build which we ran it. So the advantage of using environment is you'll get the deployment history, you get the traceability. You can trace like what are the different commits, what are the work items linked. If you want to trace anything as such, you can do that. Even see this, you can see the traceability over here, and if there's any work item linked, you can see there's no work item linked right now. Plus you can diagnose resource health. So resource health and everything will come in picture when you add a resource to, like you create an environment, then you add a resource to it, then only your resource health and everything comes in picture. It also has permissions. So basically you can secure an environment by allowing only specific user or pipeline to target the environment. So if you want to add permissions as such, so that can be added. As if now this was it was created because of the pipeline we executed yesterday, and over there in the pipeline I had a line added dev, because of which this environment is created. So if you go and create a new environment, these are the environment which is supported right now. You can have Kubernetes clusters added, you can have virtual machines added. So, and you can directly target, and you can just imagine you're giving a name as QA, and you have around list of 10 QA servers, and if you want to target all the 10 QA servers for deployment, this can be easily done using environment option. Okay, this can be easily done with the environment option. Make sense? Now one very important thing, this environment thing is only applicable for YAML scripts. So environment is nothing but it's a logical grouping of resources wherein you can, using your pipeline, you can target your deployment to all those servers. That is what environment. And in my case, this is just a environment got created. There is no resource. If you see, there is no resource as of now. But in this dev, if you want to add resource, you can go and add Kubernetes or virtual machine. These are the only two resources which is supported right now. Okay, keep this in mind. And as I said, this is only applicable for YAML pipelines, no classic. In classic you cannot use this YAML, this environments. For classic, what exactly it is, that is something we'll discuss later. For now, let's focus on YAML. Okay, are we good with this environments? Let's go back to the pipeline. Let's go back to your main pipeline, edit this pipeline, and let's take this further. Now what are the other tasks what we have right now in hand? So I got tasks such as adding the script, PowerShell script. So it's better to come down over here, give a space. Okay, now go to show assistant. Now I need to add a PowerShell task, correct? Inline script, same thing I'll do. Let's go to the release pipeline and copy paste the entire thing over here. Let me copy this. Okay, exact same thing. Make sure you are in the right place, then add. We are not at the right place. No, we were not at the right place. Give a space extra. No. This looks weird. Wait. Let's add the PowerShell script again. Not this one. Now I can simply use this tab. Why am I getting error? Inline, this is okay. Bad indentation error I'm getting. Let's see. This is in the exact same line. Okay, this is good. So all thanks to this editor, guys. If there's any indentation error, straight away you're getting an error that there's an indentation error. Now this looks good. This task should be in line with this task, the task which is there above. Okay, this is your second task. The third is the main, where the deployment is happening. Now I can simply go and add this task. The task is Azure Web App. Before that, do you want to add variables? Then you can go and do those. You can go and add variables, or simply go and add this Azure Web App task. So we got Azure App Service. This is what I need. Subscription, web app on window. What is the app service name? App service name, I should get it from my ARM template. So what is the app service name over here? Defined as a parameter. This is the name which will come up. But this is, I'm again hard coding, guys. This is not I recommend. The one which I recommend is go and define variables at the top. You can define variables over here also, and there's one more place wherein you can define variables, and make sure that those variables are targeted as a custom parameters. So this is not something I recommend, so I'm just showing this for now. Later I want you guys to add everything as a variable. Okay, now package folder, this is again will not work. What did I say? System default working directory will work in your classic releases. Now if you want to do in YAML, then you need to use pipeline.workspace. Remember, we have used pipeline workspace somewhere, correct? Yeah, over here. Just have this copied and put it over here. Now this pipeline workspace, it will go and look for the zip file and it will do the necessary deployment for you. Okay, make sure you are at the right place, then add your task. No error. Now what did we add? We added a PowerShell task, and now we added a deployment task wherein we have hard coded the web app name. This is what we did. Now my pipeline is ready. It will do the build first. Secondly, it will do the ARM template creation. Third, it will do the PowerShell, run the PowerShell script for me. Fourth, it will do the deployment as well for me. As soon as I save it, nothing will happen. We have to run it manually, all thanks to the branch and the path filter what we have added. So let me go and run this again. As soon as we start executing, you can see the things in environments. You will find a new release has started, so you can control things from here also. Where it is not started yet, still pending, not started yet. Let's wait. Okay, so build has started. Post build, the release will happen. Now this time the release has multiple stage, multiple tasks. So let's wait and watch. Anyone, any questions in between? No questions? Did anyone?
Rohit, one question I have.
Yeah,
It's related, because I submitted this form to Microsoft for parallel jobs.
mm-hmm.
They keep on rejecting because I'm not sure
What is the reason for
why they
rejection?
are rejecting.
No, whenever they reject,
They
they will
mention
give
invalid and unclear explanation.
unclear.
Yeah, they given the rejection reason.
Okay.
Let me share into chat.
Yeah, if you can give me the reason. So basically, you need to give your
Yes, I'm
name,
giving.
your email address over here. Your organization name will be something like this. So you need to give very specific, complete till your project organization name. Should be an organization name. Okay. Make it private, and there's no reason over here. Are you doing this way,
Okay.
Kishore? Your organization name should be over here.
Yeah, that one only. But I put in public, not
No, no,
mentioning
no, no,
private.
no. You have to be private.
Fourth one.
No, no. Make it private. Don't make it public. They will not allow you for public. For public, they will have to ask. They will ask you to go and get the agent pool, billing and all everything done. So don't make it public, because if you public, then they will need a specific reason. Why do you need to take public and things like that? So we don't need to do all this.
Yeah.
Keep it private. Private, they will do it within 24 hours. Public, then that goes for an extra scrutiny. Don't make it public, okay?
Okay, sure.
What is the reason they are asking? Even if it is public, and please provide correct explanation. We will grant public project recognition only to validate open source project. Yeah. This is, don't do it. Sure. Keep it private.
Okay, sure.
Okay, now if you see, my build is completed, guys, and the deployment has started already. This is the next stage. So build stage is completed, deployment stage is running up, and your ARM template task is getting executed right now. Okay. Let's wait. In the meanwhile, anyone else? Any other questions, guys? Any doubt? No questions? No problem. Okay, so your ARM task is all completed. There's a PowerShell task which is going on right now. Let's go on to the portal and let's verify. So this is my app service. Let's go and see. So I should get the default page now. Perfect, this is looking good. Now let's wait while this PowerShell script is still running in for 1 minute. If we go into environments, you can see job 2 also. See, job 2 is getting executed. If you click on the status, you can see job 2 is getting executed. But if you have resources, suppose you have an existing resources added already, you can see the health status and everything also over here in the screen itself. So complete end-to-end traceability of your resources will be done over here. So this is more related when you do a microservice deployment to a Kubernetes cluster and all. At that time this comes very handy. For Azure Web App, as I said earlier, it's not supported yet. Okay, let's go to the jobs. Yeah, so PowerShell script is also done. Now the actual deployment is taking place. Is it done? Let's refresh this web server. Yeah, my deployment is completed. If you see, it took around 5 minutes 46 seconds. So there are multiple things over here, not just your build. We got build, we got deployment, multi-stage deployment, what we are doing. Your release stage took 4 minutes. In total, your build stage took only 1 minute 9 seconds. And here we go. Welcome to devopsmela testing. Now if I make any changes to my actual application, and if I push changes to the develop branch, the build and the deployment will all happen automatically. Okay, so this is how your YAML looks like right now, which is doing your build as well as your deployment. So this is a vanilla build which we did. No testing yet added, no code analysis, no code coverage, nothing has been added over here. That is something we'll add in a future sessions, wherein we'll add everything and the line of code. And this is the task. The task majorly remains as it is, guys. As if now we are deploying it on web app, tomorrow we'll deploy it on virtual machine, or you're deploying it on Kubernetes cluster. So your task, number of tasks in your release will not change. Much of the same, wherein if you're using Terraform, then you'll have Terraform template task over here. If you're using ARM, then this is how ARM task looks like. Then later, once the infra is created, if you want to deploy, this is how the deployment happens. The only difference, the only takeaway from here is, don't make sure this is not hard coded. Go and start using variables and start making sure that nothing is hard coded in your pipeline. As I said, if you're doing any sort of hard coding, it has a disadvantage. It will not let you reuse your template. And if you're not reusing your templates which you have created, then you're not following DevOps principles. Okay, So make sure nothing is hard coded. The only place where things are hard coded will be the variable section, so that later if you want to make any changes to the variable section, you can go and make it directly without touching the actual task. So you should not touch the task. Everything should be hard coded. Okay, are we good? Now are we good? You can also use variables, and you can use false and true, the booleans. So if you keep it false, those variables will not be executed, and if you keep it true, then the variables will get executed. So even that way, if you want to play around with variables, even that is a possibility. If you come to any scenario wherein you need to use boolean, true, false, conditional, then even that can be defined as a part of variable. Okay, so this is all about the first project, guys, wherein we did the entire end-to-end using two methods, one using classic, the second using YAML. Now we'll start with the next project, not today, on Thursday India time. That will be Java Maven project. Okay, before that, make sure you practice this project, because the Java Maven project will be just the continuation what we did till now. In the Java Maven project will be also a multi-stage project, wherein you'll be using one stage for building your Java project. The second stage is wherein you will be using that project to deploy it on Azure Web App. Later we'll add SonarQube, Jacoco and many things to the build pipeline. Okay, so this is just the continuation. The Java project is just the continuation what we are doing it currently. Make sure to practice. Okay, are we good? Okay, going forward, there are small topics which is remaining. As I said, we all know what is environments now. It's a logical grouping of resources, and only Kubernetes and virtual machine is supported right now. And as I said earlier, this environment is only applicable for YAML build and release pipeline. Now what about classic? Don't we have any grouping like environments in YAML? Don't we have anything in classic? No, guys, we do have things for classic. That is known as deployment groups. Now deployment groups is nothing but it's again a logical set of deployment target machine. Okay, so what will happen, the only difference in deployment group, you don't need an agent pool now. Like unlike over here, how we are using an agent pool, correct, for deployment. This is we are using agent pool. In a deployment group, the target machine itself will have the agent pool installed on top of it. So for example, in reality, do you think you will have only one dev or one QA or one stage server? You will have multiple stage, multiple production, correct? So for example, you have a stage. So do you think you just have one stage server? You will have multiple stage 1 server. For example, stage 1, then you will have stage 2, then so on so forth, correct? You have multiple. Just imagine you got 4 stage server. Now with my current strategy of your deployment, which is there over here, each environment will get deployed one at a time with this strategy. Now this is not I want. If I deploy things in stage, it should be replicated to all my 4 servers at once. It should not happen that I have to go at one VM at a time. Just imagine it's a VM. One VM at a time. It should not happen. Then how exactly this will happen? This will happen with a concept called deployment group. You will group all these 4 servers under one name called stage. All your 4 servers will be grouped together under one name called stage. So whenever there is a deployment happening, it will happen at this level, and automatically the changes will be replicated to all the 4 servers. Because what will happen when you create a deployment group, you will have something like this, stage servers. Okay, now when you create a deployment, now you can go and register all the VMs which comes inside this group. So I have 4 VMs. Imagine I have 4 VMs. What I'll do, if it's Windows, I'll simply copy this script, whatever script you see right now, and I'll go and run it on those Windows server. If it is Linux, I can switch to Linux, and I can simply copy this entire thing and I can run it in all those 4 servers. So what will happen if we do this way? All these 4 servers will be linked with this stage group, and then when you're doing a deployment, you just need to target this. How do you target? Let me show you. Now let me just take out this task for now, this agent task for now, and over here in the drop down, do you see there is an option of add a deployment group job? Add it. Now this is your see this stage. Do you see stage? This is nothing but your stage deployment group what you have created. Now you can have target to deploy to a parallel or anything as such if you want to make any segregation. So multiple target if you want. Now you can go and start adding your task what you want. So this deployment group functionality basically we use when we with data center. Like when we have our own local data center, we got multiple VMs inside it, then we can go and create something like this. Okay, now why did I say no agent pool is required? Because when you run this command on your Linux or Windows machine, an agent will be automatically created and an agent will be running on that machine. So when there's an agent already running on your target machine, there's no need of an additional agent pool to come and play as a mediator. There's no requirement. Okay, so this deployment group has multiple benefits. Firstly, you don't need an agent pool. You can group multiple VMs as one single group and you can deploy your changes. Plus there are so many things which is not required. Like for agent you need to open certain number of ports, you need to allow, like I'm talking about data center guys, okay, you need to allow firewall rules and things like that. With this concept, the things are getting deployed on directly to your VM, and the pipeline is connecting directly to your VM. So all these firewall rules, opening ports and everything can be easily bypassed. Okay, so this is what deployment group is all about. So it's a logical set of deployment target machine that have agents installed on each one. So basically deployment group represent the physical environments, like as I said, dev, test, stage, etc. Deployment group is nothing but it's a grouping of multiple agents, much like an agent pool. Like we have an agent pool, correct? So much like in agent pool, you also have a deployment grouping. One I've created for dev, you create production. Even production will have 4-5 servers. So will you go and deploy it one server at a time, or you want to replicate the change on all the 5 servers? So if you have any of such strategies, this is the best example for you. Deployment groups. Okay, and this is only applicable for classic pipelines, no YAML. Make sense? This is only this agent pool which I have created, deployment groups which I have created. This is only for classic pipelines. YAML, we got environments which will do the logical grouping, and for classic we got deployment groups. Okay, are we good till here? Anyone? Any confusion with this deployment group? Okay. In the meanwhile, while we are thinking, let me just delete this resource group manually. Anyone? Any questions, guys? with this deployment group, what is the difference between deployment group and environments and things like that. This is a possible interview question to confuse you guys, like what is the difference between environment and deployment groups in Azure DevOps.
So I want to ask, in what uh, in what condition are we going to make use of the environment and the deployment group?
There's no condition as such. If you're using YAML build and release, then you need to use environments, and if you're using classic build and release, then you need to use deployment
Yeah,
groups.
I know. We know without them we could still go ahead with our deployments.
Hmm.
So, do we want to use it? Is it because we're deploying on different VMs or what?
Yeah, if you have multiple target machines, for example, like
Okay.
just imagine you got the example which I gave you. Okay, you got four servers. Imagine. Okay,
Okay.
now when you're doing a deployment, you want to target all these four servers at once.
Okay.
So you need to group your VMs. So this is what the grouping is done over here. So if you have any such scenario wherein you want to deploy your changes to all the server at once, then you can easily group as a stage, and you can, when you're doing a deployment, you can deploy it on all the four server at once. And if you don't have any such requirement, then yeah, you can target one server at a time, depending upon what strategy you're following in company. So this depends upon what deployment strategy, like as if you remember, I gave you blue, green, rolling update, canary. These all strategies what we have discussed in the previous sessions. Okay, now this again becomes one of the strategy. What strategy you're following? Do you want to target all the four VMs, or do you want to do like rolling one VM at a time, or do you want to do complete blue, green, complete switch over? It's then totally upon what type of strategy you're following for your deployment. Now, if you have any grouping as such, then you can make use of this environment and deployment groups for grouping and logical grouping of your VMs and targeting the deployment. Okay. Hopefully that helps.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So we got in the pipeline, we got environments covered, we got deployment groups. Now there's one more option called task group over here. Now what exactly is this? If you have any requirement wherein you have some commonly used task, when I say commonly used task, like there are some similar tasks which is getting executed or which will be executed in multiple other pipelines also. Like for example, just think of this build pipeline. Think of this three task or four task. Think of this three tasks: NuGet install, NuGet restore, and building solution. These are the three tasks which is common across 100 pipelines. Again, I'm repeating myself. These are the three tasks which is common across 100 pipelines. So if you want to add these three tasks to those 100 pipelines, what you will do, you will go one pipeline at a time and you will go all these three tasks manually. Correct? Or else you can make use of task group. Okay? You will go to all those 100 pipelines and you will go and make changes to those 100 pipelines manually. And tomorrow if there's any change in variable, just imagine there's a change in parameter. This parameter is getting changed. Just assume. Now what you will do, you will go back to those 100 pipelines one at a time and you go and make changes to those parameters manually. How time consuming it is. Correct? We can automate this entire process and we can centralizedly manage any such common task. How do we do it? Let me show you. You guys understood the scenario, correct? Why do we use this task group?
Rohit, can you explain once again
Yeah.
regarding the task group?
Yeah, coming back. Okay, just imagine a scenario that I got 100 pipelines And in those 100 pipeline, these first 3 tasks, NuGet install, NuGet restore and building solution, is common across those 100 pipelines. That is what my scenario is. Now one way of achieving this is that I go and create those 100 pipelines manually, add this task manually, and we are good to go. This is a traditional approach. Now the problem with this traditional approach is, imagine there is some change, like this NuGet installer, as if now we are using the latest one, 4.4.1. Now the change is that I want to install NuGet 4.4.0. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, just imagine I want to have 4.4.0. How do I change it? One way, I can go to all those 100 pipelines, manually go and change the version to 4.4.0. Again, traditional approach, we can go and do it manually, but this is very time consuming. Okay, it's not an easy task to go and edit all those 100 pipelines, manually go and make changes to those 100 pipelines. This is not at all accepted as well. You are working in automation, if you do such things, then this is not at all accepted. Then how do I achieve this target? And this is very common, guys. You will get these things in reality when you start working on real-time projects. This is very common that there are repeated tasks which is getting repeated in multiple pipelines. This is very common. I'm not making up scenario. This is very common. Okay. How do we achieve this now? Now one way, you can make use of task group. Task group is basically, it is a centralized, managed, common build and deployment step for your application. If there's any common task, either for your build pipeline or release pipeline, using a task group, you can easily manage those things. How do you do it? Let me show you a demo, then you'll understand more. Let's go. And this is only for classic, guys, not for YAML. Again, only for classic pipelines. Let's go to this. Now this was the 3 tasks. So what I do, I just highlight all these 3 at once, right click. Do you see there's the option of create task group? I click on create. Okay, there are some linked parameters. I need to go and unlink it first. So the link parameter is, see, the parameters are linked over here. So just unlink it all. Click on unlink. Okay, this looks good. Do it again. Right click, create task. Now just name it as what exactly this task is, NuGet and build. Just name it whatever name you want to give. You can give a description, NuGet installer and ASP build. Now as soon as I did, I hit enter, and if you see this NuGet build release, all those 3 tasks got converted into a task group. All those 3 tasks got converted as a task group. Let me show you again. Let me just leave this and come back, because the enter has happened in between. Let me unlink again. Let's have this written as build NuGet install and ASP.NET build. This is what happening, correct? Now the category is automatically, it selects, it's a build. If you have a release, then you can have a deploy also over here, and it is automatically taking the variables if there's any variables. So even your variables are getting added over here, guys. So this was two variables by default. Even the variables are getting added. Create. Now if you see this is your task group got created. Now save it. If I run this, it's the same build. Nothing difference. It is the exact same build which was happening earlier. The only difference is I have added as a task group. Now what is this benefit of this task group? Firstly, if you're creating a new ASP.NET build pipeline, let's use classic. Let's imagine you're creating a new. You can simply look for your build NuGet task. Wait. Just select empty job. Come to this plus sign and look for your build. Do you see this build NuGet? There are two. Okay, the previous one is not deleted yet. It got created. See, this is the previous one which was created. We'll go and delete this, no problem. Okay, this is the one which I have created latest. So what exactly this task is doing? NuGet install an ASP.NET build by devopsmela. I can simply add this. We are done. I have this NuGet installation. I got the build. I can simply save it and run it. My build will be created. Later, if you want to add a copy and a publish and things like that, you can go and add. But if you have any common used task which is getting used in multiple pipelines, then you need to make use of task group. And if you want to manage this task, like suppose you want to add something, later you want to, so let me save this. I'm not running it right now. Let me just save it. If you want to manage, like for example, I give an example that you want to change the parameter, or if you want to change the value of NuGet installer, then you can go to the task group. Okay, let me delete this one first to avoid confusion. Okay, let's click on this now. Now you can see all your tasks over here. Now if you want to change it, like suppose you want to change it to 4.0 over here, just save it, and this will get synced. Just imagine there are 100 pipelines. This will get synced with all those 100 pipelines automatically. If you want to change anything over here, you want to change the solution, you want to change the parameter, like make it deploy and build false, this will be applicable to all those 100 pipelines. So this is, you're managing the entire task centrally. Now I just gave you an example of one pipeline over here, correct? Just imagine there are 100 pipelines which is using this common task. And this is not just for build, guys, even for release you can do it. If you have any common task in release, you can simply go to release. For example, let me edit this pipeline. Just imagine these are common tasks. You can simply mark this and right click, you can create a task group. Okay, this is how a task group is created, and this is the importance of task group. Don't need to just create it once. Create a task group, central, and whenever you create a new pipeline, just add the task group to that pipeline. And this comes very handy in real-time scenario. When you're working in real time, these things comes very handy. So in my current project, I got around more than 50 plus task groups created, because there are so many common tasks, so many pipelines I create. So I need to automate everything. I cannot do things manual every time. So I got this. I'm using this task group and this library section a lot in my pipelines. What exactly this library section, this is something we'll talk about later, but these options I use very widely in my projects. Okay, so you need to think of your scenario in a company, like where do I use this, where do I utilize these methods. You need to come across pipeline, see what are the common tasks which I can centralize, manage it. I don't need to go and manage those things manually by myself. So think of those scenarios, and based on those scenarios, when you have proper understanding of things, go and convert those as a task group. Okay, hopefully this helps. Anyone, any questions on task group?
Yeah, so yeah, it is very, very clear and understandable, but it in case you already created, let's say you already created 15 pipelines which have the same task. If you create a task group for one of the pipelines, does it sync with the rest of the pipelines?
No. If you have already
Okay.
created, then
Okay.
you need to go and delete those and add the task group if you want to do auto
Oh,
sync as such.
okay. 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 All right. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Second very good option along with task group, there is an option called library. Now, what is this library? Library has multiple use case. One of the use cases, if you have common variables. What do I say? Commonly used variables, if you have, then you make use of library. Just imagine a scenario. Just go back to your release. Let's imagine a scenario. These are the list of variables which you have defined, and the scope of variable is only limited to this pipeline. Now imagine there is a variable like environment, cost centers. These are some common variables which will be used with multiple other pipelines. Just imagine 100 pipelines. These common variables will be used with 100 pipelines. So if you follow the traditional approach, what you will do, you will go and add, click on cost center, something like this. I'm just giving an example. Cost center, then this is for development, and if there's any development CC cost center, then if you want to define environment, then you will have environment like develop, something like this. This is your traditional approach, correct? Traditional way you add it. You add these variables. Now these two commonly used variables are getting used at multiple places. Like imagine there are 100 more pipelines wherein you want to define this variable. What you do, you go to those 100 pipelines, define those variables manually. What if the values get changed? Imagine the value got changed and you need to remove this part. Now the value got changed to develop CC. Imagine. How do you manage it? How do you manage this? You go and do things manually to those 100 pipelines. Okay, this is how you do things. Now this is again a time consuming task, correct? You go to those 100 pipelines manually doing things, or else you can have a centralized location variable wherein you can create a variable group and you can define your variables over here, and this variables, whatever you define, this can be shared across multiple pipelines. How exactly it happens? Variable group, let's name it as common var. Okay, something like this. Now what do I need? I need to have cost center, correct? Cost center. So name the cost center whatever you want. Develop CC, correct? That is what I was using. Develop hyphen CC, and I can have environment. I can have the environment as development environment. Okay, something like this. Now these are common variables. Save it. Now how do I use this in pipeline? Very easy. Go to your releases, come to your edit, variable. Now just delete this, this is not required. Go to variable groups. Now link variable group, common variable. That's it, done. You just have to link it. Now if you want to use it in your pipeline, same way. Like for example, if you want to use it over here, in place, just call this way, dollar open bracket close bracket, that's it. If you want to use it inside your pipeline. So these are variable groups. Now this can be linked everywhere, guys. Like if you want to even link with your build pipeline, simply come to variables, there's a variable group, link it. This is how this pipeline variable group is used. Okay, makes sense? Now this one major use case I'll tell you. The major use case which you use is, think of a password. Think of a database password which is getting shared across multiple pipelines. So one way is you just pass the password in each pipeline, or you define it at one single loop, because the password will keep changing. The passwords will keep changing. So if you have defined the password at 15 different pipeline, then when the password changes, you have to remember where exactly the password is, in which all pipelines you have defined the password. You have to keep a tab on it. Okay. Now if you're defining it with a variable group within a library, then one single place, and you go and change the password at that location. So this is a classic use case which you will come across, wherein you have defined variables. Now the variable needs to be changed. Now in such cases you need to make use of this library option. If you don't use it, then you're gone. Then in that case remember those 50 places where you have defined the password, and go and change it manually if you're not using this. Because once I link it, and if I make any changes, like for suppose I've saved it, once I linked it, if I make any changes, I just need to come over here, change the value over here, and it will be automatically synced with wherever I'm using. And this libraries you can use even for Yaml. It's not just for classic. If you want to use it in Yaml, you can just simply go to edit. You can come to this variable section itself, and you can have something called group. Okay, I need to have multiple variable, that's why I'm getting error. That's okay. And you can just give a variable name. What is the name of your variable? Common.var. You can have this line at the top, this way, and now I can have multiple variables defined. There are multiple variables, so, or else if you want to have, remove this part and just have everything inside as a library group over here inside the common variable. Even that is possible this way. Even in your YAML, if you want, you can have this added. Second important use case of this library is, so the passwords and everything are sensitive information, correct? You cannot pass on sensitive information inside your pipeline directly. This is a security breach. You can have your key vault linked with your library. This is something we'll do the demo, then you'll understand more. If you see this, there is an option for linking your Azure Key Vault as a variable. So you define your user ID password in a Key Vault, which is a highly secure location for keeping sensitive information such as keys, password, your private key, public key, and certificates. So all this sensitive informations are kept inside the vault, and if you want to link that vault with your pipeline, so this is the right place to do it. Second and very important use case for using library option. and this is something we'll do demo, don't worry about this. When we do the third project, database automation, at that time I'll show you how do we add sensitive information in Key Vault and how do we link the Key Vault with the pipelines. Okay, this is we'll see in practical. Okay, so that's it. Though this looks very simple topic, library and task group, this plays a very important role when you're setting up things from scratch in any project. Okay, that's it for me, and that's it from the first project, ASP.NET. This was a very simple and straightforward project. Second project is we'll not start with the project directly. Before starting with the project, we need to understand what is Maven. So we'll have a session on Maven. We'll see manually how the Maven is installed, what is the Maven lifecycle, what is Maven package, deploy, install, and all this we'll see first, and we'll understand Maven first. Then we'll jump on to Java application. That's a Spring Boot application which I'm talking about. It's not a simple hello world application, guys. It's a pretty big application which we are talking about. And with Java application we'll have multiple other things included with it. So next week maybe we'll start with Java. Tomorrow there's no sessions, guys, so we'll take a day off tomorrow. We'll all meet on Thursday, that is for India time Thursday. For US students this will be Wednesday midnight. Okay, so there's no sessions tomorrow, we'll have a day off and we'll all meet on Thursday now. If anyone has any question in the meanwhile, like guys, if you have time, make sure to practice, because when we start with the next project you may end up forgetting everything with the .NET what we did. Okay, so make sure to practice and make sure you're very much well thorough with whatever we did till now. Okay, that's it. If anyone has any question, please do let me know, or else we can. How do we implement equivalent task group? There's no option of task group in Yaml, guy. So as of now there's nothing equivalent like task group in Yaml, but yeah, Yaml scripts can be reused by itself. That's why if you have all the things defined as a variable, and if you want to reuse it, you can reuse by just calling the script. So I don't think there's a need of task group in Yaml. But just to answer your question, if there's anything equivalent, so there is nothing as such for now. Okay, anything else? Nothing? Thank you very much, guys. Let's meet on Thursday and let's continue with this topic. Bye bye.